Hello, I'm Mike Nettleship, and in this video I'm going to show you in detail how I made this guitar. It's made out of a piece of oak, a piece of mahogany and an old tabletop from a pub in Glasgow, Scotland. The whole video lasts just under 2 hours, so I've split it up to make it a little bit more convenient for you to watch. If you like it, please give me the thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe so you can then watch other videos I'll be putting up about anything, different topics, maybe another guitar and some wildlife videos. Hope you enjoy it. I make all kinds of things out of wood, and the video I'm making today is about making a guitar. Now all my designs start off on a bit of scrappy old paper like this, and that's how I started the shape of this guitar. It's not based on any Fender or Gibson, it's just a guitar that is going to be individual, and that's the kind of thing I want. I'm making it out of wood, oak actually, mainly oak, some mahogany and some beech, because I just absolutely love the grain of wood. So hopefully when it's done it'll be a nice guitar. Now I doodled a bit and then came up with a design, and the best thing to do once you've got the design is to just leave it for a few days or longer. And what I came up with was something like this. This is the oak which I got from a local timber merchant, in one piece of course, so I had to work out what the design was going to be before I cut it to shape. Now it started on the scrap piece of paper that I showed you just earlier, and before doing anything to the wood I decided on a shape and left it for a few days. That's a good idea. Leave it for a few days and then go back to it, and when you're happy with the shape you've decided, then you can start doing the work. Now this is the shape that I decided on, and that's the shape it's going to be. I think it looks okay. So I sat on with that for a while, and when I decided it was okay to go ahead, I measured the pieces that I needed to cut and went ahead and cut the oak. Now when I've cut the oak, they're not exactly the same length, as you can see. This one's a bit longer, this is the shape of the guitar, and I put the pattern on top of the wood, draw around it, ready to cut it. But there's one slight snag, because the width of this wood, when the three are put together, it's not wide enough for a guitar. Oh, before I just go into that, when I've decided, I study the wood first of all to look at the grain, to see how the grain is going to be, and when I've decided which way it's going to be and which sides are going to fit to which side, I always mark the bottom of the wood so that I know which it is, to save any confusion later on. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and I've scrutinised the wood to get the best out of the grain, and this is the kind of thing I'm looking for. This is the right hand side of the guitar as you look at it, and there's some beautiful curves in the wood just there, so I've made it so that that piece there is going to be like the top right hand of the guitar, so that when I cut it around there it goes with the grain, and when it's cut down it should bring the grain out really nicely. Now as I mentioned, the three put together aren't quite wide enough for a guitar, so I've got to fill them in with something, and I decided to put some mahogany inlays. So I got some piece of mahogany from a different local timber merchant, got them to cut it for me to about 18mm, which we need two 18mm. Now this one, that's 18mm thick to give the extra width. So I'm going to drop that in there. That fits nicely. It's too thick that way, so I'm planing those down, and I won't plane them right down flush, I'll plane them just a little bit proud so that they'll get flattened and made level when I sand it all down later on. So I've done that one, and you can see that that's also got a lovely grain in it. Can you see that? Fabulous. So that'll be nice in there. I've planed that to smoothness on this side. It's still too high, so now I'm going to plane the other side, and then I've got the other piece of mahogany here which I haven't touched at all yet, which is going to slot in there. and when the two are in and there's made a sandwich out of them, then that's now wide enough for a guitar. Here's a little tip when you're planing down hardwood, because it can be pretty tough. If you look at that, there's a bit of a curve on the edge. Can you see that? And what I do when I'm trying to plane it down fairly quickly is plane down one edge first, a few strokes, then plane down the opposite edge a few strokes. That way the plane doesn't have to take off as much wood and it's easier. So then you're left with a little hump in the middle. So then plane down the centre. So keep doing that, one side, the other side and the centre, and that's a lot easier to do it. There we have the wood. I've planed both pieces down so that when it sits like that, there's about 1 millimetre, maybe 2 millimetres above it as it is. Well, there'll be about two above it as it is, because when I glue it together I'll make it so that it protrudes on either side just a fraction, so that then I can scrape it down and then sand it and it'll be nice and flush like that. Now I've planed this down, and it is hardwood and it's quite difficult to plane, but it doesn't matter that this edge is not dead smooth. What does matter is that this edge is smooth, because this is the edge which is going flush up against that planed edge, which is planed by the company or whoever, not me. And that is the most important. So really that edge needs to be cut to size on a planer thicknesser, which I haven't got at the moment, but plan on getting one. So I've had that done, so it's nice and flush and it butts up to there. So when the whole thing is glued together in a nice sandwich, there shouldn't be much of a gap whatsoever down the edge there, which there isn't. So that's really good. So that's one stage done, and now time to move on to the next bit. Now you've seen how I've cut those holes out, but I've been a bit busier since I did that. So here's the guitar in its present state. I've taken the large piece and drilled holes in that, and then chopped out the pieces that were remaining to lighten that a little bit, and that'll get lightened when I cut it to shape, because a lot of the wood is going to come off. And that's one of the main things. I've got to try and get the weight of this down, because it is so heavy. It weighs, the three pieces together before I started doing this were 4.37 kilo. So we've got that one done. I've also taken this piece of mahogany and drilled holes through there, leaving some wood to glue it, of course, and I'm going to biscuit joint it. Then we've got the centerpiece, which saw me do that one, and that now has slots going right through just there to hollow it out, give it a bit more resonance. It should sound a lot better, this. And so that is a lot lighter than when I first started. We've got the holes cut out of that. That's partly so that the cable can go from there through the side, along the hole and through there to get to the control panel, which is going to be cut out of there, which I haven't done yet. But this is this piece also cut out deeper down there than down there, so that I can get the most wood out I can without actually cutting so much that if I decide to put a bevel on it, then it's going to come to the hole, get to the hole and spoil the whole thing. So that's it so far, and up to now the tools that I've used are the pillar drill here with a speed bit in and another one to drill the holes, and mallet, 3 different chisels, 1 inch, ½ inch, ¼ inch. I've used my old hand plane. That's to plane down the 2 pieces of mahogany that go in the section there. Plane them down, not quite to size, because I've left them. I'm going to leave them slightly proud so that when I stick them on, they stand up and I can plane them down to be flush with the oak. And the other tool I've used is the old router. Not a flashy thing, as you can see, just a ¼ inch shank old router. So anybody with just a modicum of tools and some woodworking skills can get so far. So that's it, up to the minute. Now I'm going to fit the piece of mahogany to the 2 side pieces, and I'm going to reinforce them by putting pieces of dowel in, 2 in each end. As I mentioned before, the mahogany is just slightly wider, so I've got to drill through this wood and into the oak so that I can knock the dowel through here and part way into the oak to hold it together. And that creates a slight problem because I have to drill these holes for the dowel through here, through there, and this has got to be held in exactly the right position. Now, to do the holes properly, I need to do them on the pillar drill just behind me, which you've probably seen. But I can't get clamps on them because I can't put clamps on and get them in the pillar drill. So I'm going to have to screw this piece to the oak to hold it firm while I drill the holes for the dowel. So to do this, I've drilled a hole big enough for the screw to go straight through the mahogany, and it's just going to screw into the oak. And because oak is a very hard wood and you wouldn't be able to screw a screw into it without stripping the head, I've also drilled a leader hole into the oak, which is slightly smaller than this hole, because with this hole I want the screw to go straight through it, and then I want it to grip into the oak. So that's what I've done. You'll see a couple of holes there actually. One was a mistake. Yeah, I make them too. So I'm going to drill that now straight through that hole into the oak, and through the other one at the other side into the pre-drilled hole into the oak. Nice and tight. And now when I feel the edges, it's just protruding a little bit to either side, so that is absolutely perfect and it's held in position. So now I'm going to drill those holes for the dowel on the pillar drill. Okay, they're the holes drilled. Now I'm going to glue it up and put the dowel in. I'm just going to make sure there's no sawdust left in the holes that I've just drilled, otherwise the dowel might not go in. Make sure all the wood is covered, but not too thickly. I've got a damp cloth here somewhere to wipe the excess glue off. There we are. Okay, that's glued up, so now I'm going to knock the dowels in. Let's just give it a little push and bed it in there. Nice and tight, nice tight fit. Hopefully the dowels will go in okay. Put a little bit of glue in the holes there, first of all. And seems to be in line. That was a bit easy, that one, for some reason. There we go, that feels in the right position. Now I'll just use something to just push them in a bit further. The first thing that comes to hand is the chuck key. That's a stubborn one. Okay, so that's fixed down. Wipe off any excess glue. With a damp cloth. This is just water-based glue, water-based wood glue, so it easily wipes off with a damp cloth. Okay, so now that's fairly tight there. I'm going to, I think I'll put the screws back in actually, if I can find them. They'll help to hold it tight. But I'm also going to put some clamps on. There we are, it's squeezing it nice and tight because there's a bit of glue coming out, so that's good. If you haven't got any of these clamps out, I advise you to get some. They're absolutely brilliant. Lovely bit of glue coming out, so we know it's nice and tight. Right, there we are, so I'll leave that to dry and then we'll go on to the next stage later. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button right here so you can watch my other videos.